How far would a man go to satisfy a secret desire, even if it meant destroying everything he held dear? This isn't just a narrative, it's a raw, unfiltered look at the dark side of affection. Witness the unraveling of a friendship and a marriage as a man succumbs to an obsession he can't control, with devastating consequences. In the village of Olorunpe, where the moon rose like a guardian over every secret, lived Ayo and her husband Kehinde, a couple known for their laughter, their kindness, and their open door. But sometimes even an open door invites the wrong spirit in. Ayo's best friend Ifunanya had come for a short visit. They had grown together like twin seeds, inseparable, and Kehinde, ever the gracious husband, welcomed her like a sister. It was nothing at first, just a glance that lasted a heartbeat too long, just a smile that carried warmth it shouldn't. But in every fire there is a spark, and every spark begins as something small. Days pass and Ifunanya helps Ayo in the market and around the home. Kehinde begins to help more often too. As days turned into weeks, Kehinde found himself noticing things he had no right to notice. The way Ifunanya's laughter filled a room, the quiet grace in how she moved. And though his mind warned him, his heart whispered something else. One day Ayo cheerfully said to her husband, "Kehinde, see how Ifunanya bargains. The traders can't cheat her." Kehinde, smiling faintly, "Yes, she has a strong spirit." Ifunanya laughed, "A spirit stronger than any man's pride." Her words were innocent, but in his heart they echoed like a drum. He began to seek her presence, to ask about her life in the city, her dreams, her laughter. And each night, when the house grew quiet, his thoughts refused to sleep. That night, under the whispering palm trees, their paths crossed by chance, or perhaps by design. Kehinde hesitantly said, "You sing beautifully." "My wife. She used to sing like that, before life became so busy." Ifunanya, smiling, replied, "Then remind her, Kehinde. Remind her that joy is still allowed." "You remind me too," he said. The silence after that sentence was heavy, the kind of silence that knows it should not exist. The nightbirds called, the wind stirred, but neither of them moved. Ayo slept peacefully inside, dreaming of nothing. The next morning the world was unchanged, but he was not. For once the heart allows a forbidden seed. It grows in darkness, feeding on deceit. He told himself it was harmless, that no line had been crossed. But the first lie is never spoken to another. It is whispered to oneself. And so began the story that would teach Olorunpe a painful lesson, that friendship, like water, must be guarded. For even a single drop of poison can turn a well bitter. The days grew hotter, and so did Kehinde's thoughts. He told himself it was nothing. That desire was like the wind. It would pass if he did not chase it. But some winds, when ignored, turn into storms. Her presence became a test of his will. Every glance, every word, a temptation dressed in sunlight. And though his body stayed beside his wife, his mind wandered far from home. Ayo playfully said, "You're silent, my husband." "What's troubling you?" Kehinde, forcing a smile. "Just thinking of harvest." Ifunanya responded lightly, "Ah, then you must be thinking of work even in your dreams." He began to build walls of excuses in his heart, telling himself that it was admiration, not desire, respect, not hunger. But the heart is not a fool. It knows when it has been deceived. And so the lie began to take root, watered not by action, but by thought. And thoughts, once fed, grow teeth. That day a letter arrived, a whisper from her life before Olorunpe. And though Kehinde had no right to know its contents, his heart burned with curiosity. Obsession feeds on mystery, and mystery is its sweetest fruit. Later that evening, while Ayo sleeps, Kehinde sees the folded letter left on the table. His hand trembles. He hesitates, then opens it. It was nothing. A message from a friend in the city, asking when she would return. But to a man consumed by fantasy, even an innocent word feels like betrayal. He folds it back, guilt crawling up his throat. For the first time, Kehinde feared not being caught. He feared what he was becoming. The next evening, Kehinde sits alone, staring at the sunset. An old palm wine tapper named Baba Sei known for his wisdom, sits beside him. Baba Say said quietly, "You look at the sky, but your eyes are not there." Kehinde, startled. "It's nothing, Baba." "Just tired," Baba Say chuckled. "Tired men look at their feet. Guilty men look at the sky." Kehinde's heart stumbled. The old man's words were arrows cloaked in laughter. Baba Say leaned closer, his voice low and grave. "Do not feed the spirit of desire, my son. It does not sleep, it waits. And when it wakes, it will eat everything you love." Kehinde nodded, forcing a smile. But as he walked home, the wind carried a whisper only he could hear. "It's already awake." Back at home, Ayo and Ifunanya cook together, their laughter filling the air. Kehinde watches from the doorway, torn between love and guilt. Nights turned into months. The air between them thickened with things unsaid. Ayo's laughter, once his peace, now sounded like mockery, and every kindness Ifunanya showed only deepened his torment. Ayo reaches to hold his hand during dinner. He withdraws it too quickly. Her eyes linger with quiet suspicion. He had built a web of silence, one that trapped not only him, but the two women who trusted him most. And so, the man who had once guarded his home with love now guarded his secret with fear. But no secret stays buried forever. For in Olorunpe, even the walls have ears, and even love, when tested, will demand its price. The rains came. Heavy, cleansing rains that washed the dust from the earth. But not every cleansing is kind, for some storms are not meant to heal. They are meant to expose. Ayo saw it, not the look itself, but the shadow it left, a small unease that grew like a vine around her heart. And when a woman's spirit stirs, even the gods listen. Ayo and Ifunanya at the village market. The chatter of women, bleating goats, rustling fabrics. A local gossip, Mama Tinu, leans close to Ayo. Mama Tinu with a low voice. "Ayo, your husband. He looks at your friend as though she carries his breath in her hands." Ayo responded, forcing a smile. "People see what they wish to see." Mama Tinu responded, "Eyes don't lie, my daughter. It is mouths that do." The words struck like thorns beneath the skin, unseen but impossible to ignore. And though Ayo laughed it away, doubt had already entered her home, quiet as a shadow at dusk. Kehinde sits alone, staring at his reflection in a metal basin half filled with water. The flame from the oil lamp flickers over his face. They say water shows truth when the spirit is weary enough to see it. Kehinde looked into the basin and saw not a man, but a shadow wearing his skin. "I have not touched her. I have done no wrong. But why then does my heart beat like a thief's?" His reflection trembled with the ripples, as though even the water could not bear his lie. Ifunanya steps out to fetch water from the well. The moon is pale, the air thick. Kehinde follows, silently, hesitantly. She turns and startles. "Kehinde!" "You frightened me," Kehinde responded softly. "Forgive me. I could not sleep." "Then you should pray," Ifunanya said. "I have," Kehinde replied, "but some prayers don't reach heaven." He stepped closer, not enough to touch, but enough to cross a line only the heart could see. And in that breath, temptation became danger. Ifunanya stepped back, uneasy. Ayo's voice echoes faintly from inside. "Kehinde? Is that you?" He freezes. In that single moment, mercy came. Not from his will, but from his wife's voice. And yet it was the kind of mercy that burns before it heals. The next morning, the courtyard is quiet. Ayo tidies the bedroom. She finds something. A folded piece of cloth with Ifunanya's bracelet inside, tucked under Kehinde's pillow. She frowns. The gods do not shout, they reveal. And truth, once unearthed, carries its own thunder. Ayo spoke quietly. "Why would her bracelet be here?" Kehinde, stammering. "It must have fallen. Perhaps when—" Ayo interrupted. "When what, Kehinde?" The air turned to stone. Every sound, the wind, the birds, the rustle of trees, seemed to hold its breath. Ayo rose slowly. Ifunanya enters the courtyard, cheerful and unaware, until she sees Ayo's eyes. No words were spoken that morning, But sometimes silence speaks louder than any confession. The rain began again, harder this time. Ayo walks away from the compound, drenched but calm. Ifunanya weeps. Kehinde stands still, hollow-eyed, unable to follow either woman. That day, Olorunpe saw three hearts break, one from guilt, one from betrayal, and one from innocence caught between. And the rain that fell did not cleanse them. It only made their wounds easier to see. They say when the heart strays, it is not only the body that sins, it is the soul that forgets its home. And in forgetting, it loses everything. When the storm passes, it does not apologize. It leaves the land to count what remains. And in the quiet that follows, truth often sounds like mourning. The emptiness around him echoes louder than any scolding could. Ayo had left before dawn, not in anger but in silence. The kind of silence that says, I have nothing left to say. Ifunanya stood by the gate, wrapped in a shawl, eyes swollen from crying. She looks around once more at the compound that once felt like home. Ifunanya's heart was a storm of its own. Guilt and disbelief, shame and sorrow. She had come as a guest and left as the ghost of peace. Ifunanya said to Ayo, tell her I never meant harm. She won't listen to me. Not anymore, Kehinde replied. Then may the gods listen, for they know my heart was foolish, but not wicked. Ifunanya cried. She walks away along the narrow path, her figure fading behind the tall grasses. And so she left, taking her laughter with her, leaving only echoes where joy once lived. Days passed. Kehinde is at the riverbank, staring at his reflection again. But now the water is calm, and he does not flinch. Baba Say approaches slowly, leaning on his cane. So my son, the wind you fed finally came for your roof. Kehinde replied hoarsely, and it took everything beneath it. Baba Say continued, that is what desire does. It does not steal. It collects its due. The old man sat beside him, saying nothing more. For wisdom does not always speak. Sometimes it only watches as you learn. Kehinde bowed his head, tears falling into the river. They say tears are the river's way of forgiving, but some men must cross the whole river before they earn that peace. Far from Olorunpe, Ayo walks through another village, carrying a small basket. Her eyes are tired, but her back is straight. A kind old woman greets her, offering her a place to rest. Ayo's heart had shattered, yes, but even broken hearts can still beat. She found work in a neighboring town, tending gardens, healing slowly among strangers. In time, her laughter returned, quieter now but wiser, for pain, when endured, becomes the teacher our pride never wanted. Months later, Kehinde visits the local shrine. He kneels before the elder priestess, leaving an offering of kola nuts and palm oil. I come with empty hands and a heavy heart. The priestess replied, then you are not empty. You are ready, he asked, for cleansing, not to erase the past, but to face it. And the priestess, with eyes old as the mountains, spoke only this. Every desire carries a spirit. Feed it wrongly, and it will feed on you. He bowed his head, for he finally understood. In the village of Olorunpe, they still speak of the man who desired what was not his, and lost the treasures that were. They say, guard your heart as you guard your home. For thieves do not always come from outside. Sometimes they rise from within. And so ends the tale of Kehinde, Ayo, and Ifunanya. A story not of wickedness, but of weakness. Not of hate, but of hunger. And of the quiet ruin that follows when love forgets its boundaries.